Yes.
Can we take roll call?
Attorney Cole,
Here.
Jason Block,
Here.
Chris Sloan,
Here.
Bob Wayne,
Here.
Christine Green, here, Virginia Gay, here. Greg Ryder,
Good evening and welcome to the March 1st meeting of the Mount Lebanon Traffic Board. The Traffic Board is an advisory board to the Mount Lebanon Commission. The duties of the board are as follows. Makes recommendations to the commission to improve traffic conditions, receives and investigates citizens' requests pertaining to traffic and parking, recommend to the commission and manager the means to improve the administration and enforcement of traffic laws, reviews traffic regulations and controls, works with the traffic consultant in the preparation of traffic studies. To assist the board with our recommendations are the municipal traffic engineer, Mike Haberman of Gateway Engineers, and Lieutenant Scott Green, Mount Lebanon Police Department Traffic Services Unit. The traffic board may only recommend action to the Mount Lebanon Commission and municipal manager. The board does not have the ability to approve requests related to traffic. Residents who wish to have a discussion item placed on the agenda for consideration by the board should submit the request in writing at least 1 week prior to the meeting to Lieutenant Scott Green with a brief description of the issue or request, and should attend the meeting that the issue will be discussed. Citizens' comments will be taken following the introduction of each agenda item. If you wish to speak on a particular item, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. You will be provided 5 minutes to provide your comments. If a group of residents wish to speak on one particular agenda item, you may appoint a spokesperson if you so choose. If your comment or concern has been addressed by another speaker, you may simply come to the microphone, state your name and address, and indicate you are in agreement with that resident's comments. Each resident should be provided one opportunity to provide comment on each issue. If you are participating via Zoom and would like to comment, please click the raise hand button and you will be given 5 minutes to provide your comments. All comments or questions should be directed to the chairperson. The chairperson will request that the traffic engineer or Lieutenant Green to provide a response when appropriate. Recommendation for agenda items appearing under new business will be limited to further investigation and or data collection and placed on a future agenda once the requested information or data collection is complete. The municipality has adopted traffic calming policy. This policy and a related frequently asked questions companion document are available online at mountlebanon.org. Okay, can we review the minutes? We have a copy of the minutes from our last meeting. Do we have a copy of the minutes from?
Yeah.
That's okay.
I apologize in advance.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was very short.
I
Sure.
Motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Second, the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay, the minutes are approved. There is no old business. I guess this is old business. I see on the minutes that you were gonna check on grants for that. It says, you'd be submitting a grant proposal for Gateway Go grant to upgrade the pedestrian signal at the Washington Road Business District. Submitted, okay.
Yeah. We submitted, we were gonna do 2 applications, but we did 1 application at the request of PennDOT. And there's a litany of things on there with all of the ADA buttons and so forth along this section of Washington Road town section. And then some detection upgrades as well, or some outdated video detection out here that's no longer supported. You can't get parts, you can't get through cameras, it's incompatible, so we're gonna upgrade all that detection, as well as a couple of other sections outside of uptown, so. I want to say the entire application, we're seeking maybe $560,000 from PennDOT, something like that. So that was submitted in January, and we'll probably hear, they usually announce it in like October, November,
Okay,
more to come.
good.
Correct.
Okay, new business. ADA ramp at Washington Road and McFarland Road. Anybody here to speak to it or?
It'll be me.
Okay, very good.
This came from a resident to Commissioner Flynn and then made its way to me, and the suggested path was to at least get it here. For initial review, understanding that the McFarland and Washington Road are both state roads, but maybe there's a mechanism where we can kind of push the state to take a look at it. Everyone's familiar with the intersection, McFarland and Washington Road. On the exhibit here, it's right, the border of Mount Lebanon and Dormont, I think kind of goes through this intersection in some. But this particular corner is in Mount Lebanon, southwest corner. We did take a couple of photos. This is on the southwest corner looking towards the Dormont side and the parking structure that they put in a number of years back. The ramp we're talking about is closest to us at the bottom of the picture, or the ramp, the lack of a ramp. That's stepping out into the roadway, same view. And then the third picture is if you were coming from the Dormont side, this is, if you cross that crosswalk crossing McFarland, this is what you encounter. You can see to the right, there's a little Pittsburgh style inlet. These are the ones that are tucked back into the curb. Typically the opening in those over the years disappears because they keep paving and paving. So, but this one seems to have a good opening. You can see the curb itself is relatively high and it's been driven over quite a few times to the point that it's damaged. This is the curb that's in question. The resident that reached out to Commissioner Flynn had indicated, I believe, that she was pushing a stroller with two kids in it, and as she was getting across, then the light kind of went and turned red and turned green. She got to there and physically couldn't get the stroller back to get up onto that curb. So that's essentially where the request came from. That's another, this is looking down McFarland, so that's the inlet that's tucked into the curb there that seems to be creating the challenge with, if you were gonna put ramps in here, ADA ramps in here, you want that whole radius there where that inlet is. As I had mentioned, PennDOT has made pavement improvements and so forth through this corridor over the past decade or so. When they do those improvements, that typically includes upgrading ramps, which they did kind of all along Washington Road back in 2013, 2014. Same thing when they came through Dormont. They did come through here. Presumably there's a reason that there's not some sort of a ramp in here, even if it doesn't meet exactly ADA criteria. A lot of times you can do technically infeasible ramps that can get through their committee, but it still at least would provide the ability for somebody who's handicapped or with strollers, whatever, to be able to get up onto this curb. So it is a new item. Again, they are state roads, but I think at a minimum, I'd like to reach out to some different folks at PennDOT and find out if there's some history as to this corner, and if they had looked at it in detail and determined that you couldn't do anything there, then there's nothing we can really do. So, but I don't want to just say, well, nothing we can do. Instead, I'd like to at least make a couple calls. If you guys are okay.
Any questions? Go right ahead.
If there's no possibility of a ramp, would they improve the curb? Would they consider that?
It's going to depend. I think it's all going to depend on this inlet and where it's going. So there most likely are pipes coming into this inlet from multiple directions and then probably going out down McFarland. That's a pretty hefty construction project to reconfigure and reinstall underground stormwater facilities. So my guess is that's why they didn't do it in the first place, but that's not to say that, they won't add that to some sort of a maintenance project. They have maintenance budgets for things like this. So I assume if they're going to be getting complaints, or if they get complaints from handicapped folks, they're gonna have to address it. So we can at least make them aware of it and get it on their radar. They've got a whole ADA committee. I mean, they have mechanisms, to take care of things like this. Maybe it's just not on their radar. So no action, but. I think maybe it should at least end up as a follow-up item next month, so I can at least report back what I found out and if there's anything for us to do.
Everybody good with that? Any other questions?
I think it's a great idea. I'm just surprised there is no ramp accessible.
Okay, good. So we'll hear from you next month, we hope. Any items from the floor?
Two items before action. First is.
Please state your name and address for the record.
You have 5 minutes.
Timer?
Timer. It's only been 154 James Place. Just following up on something that I brought before, that was thinking to me about a question. When you're on Washington Road, coming to Galleria, at the top of Woodhaven, the residents don't know when they have the left. They feel like they go, they not, people behind you be rather impatient. And so the request has been, can there be a left-hand turn arrow? So they know when they actually make, safely make the turn on the Woodhaven from Washington Road. Brought this up before, and it was COVID and traffic flows were down and so forth. So, as we're returning to normal, can we put this back on the agenda just to see, yes, no, maybe, I've seen residents like to get the arrow, but let's find out what's for all of us. So that's item one. Item two is commission last night passed the board reorganization policy. And so what's going to happen is there'll be a 1-year transition period for terms to fill out the board, and then April of 2024 is when the merging of the traffic board with other boards to create the golden board. So just letting you know, the updated, yes, we passed the legislation. Now that 1-year transition period, and then everyone will be planned like this.
The traffic board is gonna merge with who?
It's gonna merge with traffic, parking, and I remember if there's a third one in there with as well. But the idea is that you've seen when people come to the board go, got this place on Washington Road, and I park there, we go, what's that? A traffic issue, a parking issue?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that way, having people going back and forth between the various.
Yeah.
boards. So the idea is to try and make this more efficient. We also get questions like sidewalks, so that or they moving around, those whatever various questions come up. And so trying to be more efficient with Mr. Stein, more importantly, more efficient with residents. That it's more clear where to go. If they have a question, it's something solved. So that's the thought process.
But what are the boards that would be combined? The parking, the traffic, and
Definitely parking and traffic. I don't remember if there's a third one, because I remember when I first, this came up, I'm like, wait, stop and go. Parking for something. And then I was like, wait, as we start looking at what the important things are, and even with the parking facilities board, that board, even where there are issues they face related to on-street parking and so forth, that relate more to species community as opposed to, let's say, in some point, we're going to do with South Wash. There's another board that's part of this reorganization for a financial project board. That sort of project will be there. So it's the same thing, just give you some more backstory. Another version of boards are going to be sports and parks. Because you have situations where in a park is a sports court. And there has been that question between the two boards going, we're in charge of the park, but you really have a better sense of how this court is being used, what should we do? So again, trying to get some efficiency there, with the things that the boards talk about. So, but anyway, that's kind of two point. As soon as things go, we can detail on, right, that was topical, and we just approved it last time, and, figure it, let's just stay on there. I probably used more than my 5 minutes, but anyway. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And then just for the record, I'll just note that the request for that left turn phase in Woodhaven came right at the beginning of COVID, so have it show up as a follow-up item on the agenda for next month.
Old business, for old business.
Yeah, have it up as old business.
Okay.
And then, so I'll get the data this month and actually report what we found.
Any other items? Motion to adjourn,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All against? Well.